Hey, it's Regina here from Tarot and Time in Kent, Connecticut, and I'm here to talk to you about the month of February using tarot and astrology for everyday living. So when I look at the month of February, I see so many planets in the sign of Aquarius, as usually happens this time of year as we're in Aquarius season. So when I look at the chart, we see the sun in Aquarius. We've got Venus hanging out nearby, the planet of harmony and balance and relationships and money and all those valuable, beautiful things. Mercury, the planet of communication, is hanging out nearby in the air sign of Aquarius. And then we have Mars and Pluto. Mars, the planet of action and motivation, and Pluto, the planet of transformation and power. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets in Aquarius as we kick off the month. And let's see, as we end the month, we have 1, 2, oh, well, I guess not. They go into Pisces. So we will start to have that scrunch of planets in the water sign of Pisces, but everything is really kind of together, okay? There's not a lot of balance right now. And so don't be expecting things to be balanced in your life. All the planets are landing in very consolidated areas of your chart. So wherever Aquarius is in your chart or wherever Pisces is, that's where you're going to have a lot of activity this month. And if you need help identifying where that is in your chart, then comment below. Tell me your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth. I can help you out and tell you where that energy is. And I'd love to hear from you. I definitely need more people commenting on this channel. So please just say hi if you're here. Okay, so when I look at the chart, I get Uranus energy from it. Uranus and Saturn, because Aquarius was originally ruled by the planet Saturn, the planet of responsibility, of hardship. You know, everybody's afraid of Saturn. When we know that Saturn is really a builder. Saturn, you know, I've heard you hear me call him the building inspector. So Saturn wants to make sure all your ducks are in a row, that this is what you really want. It wants to see effort and motivation from you, and knowing that good things take time, and perseverance to keep at it. Okay. So Saturn is changing signs this month, right? Saturn is leaving actually it's changing signs next month, but it's leaving the sign of Pisces, where it's been for 2.5 years, and it's going to head into Aries. So we've got planetary changes with the ruling planet of Aquarius. Now, we also know Aquarius is dealing with Pluto in their sign. That's a little bit newer. Then we have Uranus, which is the modern day ruler of Aquarius. So when they discovered Uranus, they assigned it to Aquarius, and Uranus is finishing its retrograde this month. So there's a lot of changes happening related to the sign that we're in. And I think that's interesting. And then as we move into Pisces season later in the month, the ruling planet of Pisces, which is Neptune, is changing signs into Aries this month. And Neptune doesn't change signs often. It's been in Pisces for 14 years. So as it exits Pisces this month, where it does not return in our lifetime, we're going to feel shifts. And so this experience of Pisces season is going to feel different than it has in the past 14 years, because now Neptune is in the fiery sign of Aries instead of its own sign, watery sign of Pisces. Okay, so all in all, lots of Aquarian vibes, lots of Uranus vibes is the vibe that I got when I looked at the chart. And when you look at the tarot deck and you look at what cards are associated to Uranus, I think it's kind of interesting because they kind of tell a story in their own. So there's 3 cards in the major arcanas that are related to Uranus. I'm going to show them to you. They're not in the order that they go in tarot, but this is the way they felt to me when I was looking at the chart. And the first one is the Tower. And I know the Tower scares a lot of people, but the Tower is removing what doesn't work. And, you know, I try to keep my videos non-political, but I'm sorry, it's not going to work out that way anymore. There's too much happening. So we need this Tower. We need this to hit. We need it to break down the things that don't work. We need it to clear the way for better and more humanitarian ways of being in this world, because that is what Aquarius is, the humanitarian. Sometimes you'll hear Aquarius set as your hopes and your dreams, but Aquarius holds the view of well-being for all, and we need that now more than ever. So I'm happy to feel this Tower energy this month. Here it is. Now, the other card, there's two more in the deck that are related to Aquarius or to Uranus, and the other one is the Star, which is a beautiful card of your hopes and your dreams. But really it's a purge card, and it's really about pouring out what does not work. The Star actually comes in after the Tower in the tarot deck. That's the chronological order. So once the Tower's been hit and things have been removed, the Star comes in to tell us there's hope. We need hope right now. So this is our theme here for this month's reading. And then if you think about it, I brought the Fool card in because even though it's card 0, so it would have come first in order, once we remove these things and we move into humanitarian efforts, we have a new journey ahead of us. And the Fool is guided forward, and we need to start listening to our higher guidance so that we can make this world better for all of us. Not this idea that only for some, or that if it doesn't affect us, it's okay. That doesn't work anymore. We can see that. And unless we're completely closed off to what's going on in the world, we know that people are suffering, and we can feel it in the air, and it's time to take some positive action about this. And also, this month, I just feel like the energy of it is that action. I'm hoping and praying to see some positive, non-violent solutions to what's going on out there this month. That's when I prepared for this video, all I could do was pray that we're going to harness this energy and we're going to see some change. And it might not be pretty at first with the Tower card, but the Tower card can also be a divine idea, insight, something hitting just right. And we need the change to come in just right at this point, at least here in the United States of America. Okay, so we're going to go into the overview of the month. Most of you have been here before. We know we're going to break it down week by week. There's a lot of information. You don't need to absorb this all at once. I'm going to break this video up into smaller bite-sized pieces later. So take what you get. And I'll remind you later. So remember, we start off the month with a full moon, and we kind of ended the last video on the full moon. February 1st is the full moon in Leo, because Leo is the sign right across from Aquarius, right? And Leo, sometimes, they're opposite signs. So Leo is often associated with your own heart and with, things about yourself, because it's ruled by the sun and it's about your ego. Right? And I don't mean it in a negative way. We all have an ego showing up in the world. That's really what your sun sign is, your ego showing up. Aquarius is the opposite. Aquarius is groups of people, of networking together, of humanitarian vibes. So it's us and them. And I don't mean it in a separate way. Us reflecting out to the world and how we can show up and make change. So full moon in Leo on the 1st, Leo likes a lot of attention, and really and truly the moon is kind of across from all this bunch of planets all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets all together with the moon across from it. So pay attention to where you're being pulled, pay attention to your feelings, and enjoy the Leo full moon, because I personally really do. I think it's beautiful time of year, and it's a great time to kind of ask for what you want and to show up and to make some difference for others. Now, the month of February is going to also consist of an Aquarius new moon along with a solar eclipse, which is a big deal, and we have a lot of planets changing signs this month. So let's kind of jump right into it. Let's go week by week. We're going to pull tarot cards along the way. And please ask me questions, comment, and I'll get back to you. All right. So like I said, starting off on the week, so we ended really last month on the 1st, which was the full moon. And we start off the week on Monday, February 2nd. So we're still coming down off the Leo moon. So things are still going to be very intense, as full moons always are. And that full moon was conjunct a lot of planets together with that whole group of planets there, Mars, Pluto, Venus, Mercury. It's a lot of intensity. Now, the second, the moon will actually move over to the sign of Virgo later in the day, in the evening, okay? And this is Imbolc, or Groundhog Day. And Imbolc is a pagan holiday, and a lot of times the way I remember it is as the goddess unfurling. And I saw a picture one time, I think I used it a few years ago when I was talking about Imbolc, of like this little goddess underground, and she's just starting to wake up and unfurl. And so there's all snow, and boy, is there snow in New England right now. So she's there and she's awakening, right? And it's going to take a little while until we feel her warmth, but she's starting. And I think of those flowers just starting to grow and push up in the ground. And it's pretty amazing to think about. And so it's kind of refreshing. And it's kind of, if you have any seasonal depression or any, it's just hard here without a lot of light and being cold here in New England, know that the goddess is beginning to unfurl. Okay. So I hope that gives you some hope there on February 2nd. Now, this week we have a lot of squares. We have a lot of squares in general with the planet Uranus, and Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius. And squares are those 90-degree angles, those challenges. And, it doesn't have to be a horrible thing. It's just not like smooth and easy going. So Mercury's square Uranus, Venus is square Uranus. We're just going to be dealing with a lot of Uranus this month. Now, the third, we have Uranus, here we go again, Uranus going direct. Now it's been in its retrograde for a while, and it moved back into the sign of Taurus because it was in Gemini for a while. And now on the 3rd, it goes direct, and it's still at 27 degrees of Taurus, but it's going to start to move forward again. Okay, so I think this is going to be a good thing. And I wrote down bend with the winds of change. Uranus is often seen as that lightning bolt of change. So just kind of flow with it. And it may feel a little shocking at first, but just go with the flow. We're in new territory. By mid-month, Pluto, the planet of transformation and change, will be at about 4 degrees of Aquarius, where it has not been in, I think it's like 300 and something years. So we are in the age of Aquarius. We're in new times. There's a lot of unknown. We don't know. We will start to see more clearly as planets start to move into Aries, and we just have to stay focused and grounded. And like I was saying last month, stay grateful. I think that is a key word. Grateful. If the world's atrocities are not affecting us directly, feel grateful for that. But do not think that that gives you a reason to not speak up and speak out and to act. So the moon will continue to stay in the mutable earth sign of Virgo on Tuesday the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th until 4:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 5th. So, I always think when the moon's in Virgo, what a great time to organize, pay bills, clean your house. So take advantage of that. And then it will move into Libra on Thursday, the 5th in the morning. Now, we have a few things going on between the 5th and the 6th. One is that Mercury square Uranus, which we talked about. And I wrote down, take notes while the dust settles, okay? Because Mercury's the communicator and Uranus is that lightning bolt. On the 6th, Mercury's going to change signs. It's going to leave Aquarius and enter the watery sign of Pisces. And this is called a psychic placement. So psychic energy is going to run really, really high, especially as we have more and more planets moving into Pisces later in the month. So what does it mean, a psychic placement? Well, it just means if you were born with Mercury in a water sign like me, I was born with it in Scorpio, we're going to feel things. Our sixth sense is going to be stronger. We're going to notice, I often tell people I will have intense dreams and I will take note of them and often write them down. I will notice when some weird interaction happens. I look for repeat themes and I often get them. They often reference my dreams. I'll have strong feeling about something, even though maybe it doesn't make sense at the time. That's how psychic energy works for me. So pay attention to yours. while Mercury is in the water sign of Pisces from February 6th until 14th. Now, Venus is going to, let's see, what is Venus doing? Well, Venus rules the sign Libra, and the moon will be there the 5th, the 6th, the 7th until midday on the 7th, and then the moon will move into Scorpio. So we have a nice weekend of starting off with Libra, which is harmonious and it rules relationships. And then it moves into Scorpio, which has an intensity to it that I like. And there's more psychic energy because Scorpio's a water sign. So please, please, please don't disregard your feelings, okay? Things are going to get trippy. Things are going to, your dreams can be increased. You might not feel as analytical as you usually do, but it's okay. There's psychic energy, and that's here to what you're here to learn about. Now, Venus is going to square Uranus on the 8th. Venus is in the sign of Aquarius, and Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. Now, Venus in Aquarius, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Uranus in Taurus, Taurus is ruled by Venus. This is called mutual reception, and it's really cool in some ways. Things can happen, things can show up, and opportunities can present themselves. There can be unexpected shifts in love and money. Like I said, Uranus is often shocking, but it can end up being a really, really good thing. So enjoy that. Now, that's Sunday. So let's pull some cards here for your first week. Now, it's interesting. I went to figure out which cards I was going to use. I got my pendulum out and I'm like, okay, are the cards here at my reading table? And the pendulum's like, no. Are the cards in my suitcase that I keep in my car when I read at the hotels? No. Are the cards here at the store in Kent on the shelves? Yes. So I had to go over to the shelves and I had to go through each shelf. I asked my pendulum, is it on this shelf, on this shelf? And it was very, very clear the decks that it wanted to use. Now, some of these decks I haven't even read with. So the Nightfall Tarot is one of the ones that showed up. We're going to work with this. This one I'm slightly familiar with. But one of the ones I've never worked with before is the Amber Moon Tarot. And we have a lot of these sample tarot cards out. So I just grabbed them, and this is going to be fresh for both of us here because I haven't worked with either of those. Okay, and then I have the good old Spellcasters, which is one of my favorites. It's pretty intense, and I'm going to give you a card from there also. This is the Spellcasters, and I love the Spellcasters. Now, I also have an oracle deck because it was very, very, my pendulum was very clear that it wanted an oracle, and it wanted this one. And I think this is Elle Q, maybe is how you pronounce oracle. And it's kind of cool because there's a Regina card in this deck. I've seen it once, and let's see if we get it. Okay, so very specific cards here. I have not looked at any of them. Let's see what the themes for this week are. Your first card from the Nightfall Tarot is the Three of Cups. This is a great card. I mean, it's joyous. People are celebrating, and and hopefully we'll be celebrating that the groundhog says that we will not be having much more winter. So Three of Cups, card of joy, card of celebration, a lot of emotion. There's a lot of wateriness this month. Your next card is the moon. Speaking of wateriness, this card's gorgeous. I really love it. And so the moon, intuition, right? I think of the moon, I think of the pull of the moon, right? And we're talking about a full Leo moon, and that moon is red in the background, which is kind of cool, kind of referencing that Leo. And she's just kind of feeling the power of it. So we have to keep in mind that this week is still feisty and fiery. We're coming down off that full moon, and not only just a full moon, but a full Leo moon. So we may not, sometimes full moons keep us up. We may feel a little stimulated. We might feel a little emotional, but there's a lot of joy here also. The Spellcaster's deck is the Star. Oh, cool. Because I was going to say that if we got any of these original theme cards that I had pulled out, I think they are going to have more power. And here is the Star. from the spellcasters, and he feels Egyptian. I really don't know too much about him, but I know he's pouring out the emotions that are not needed, but he looks like he's very connected. Like whatever's on the top of his crown, it almost looks like someone is sitting on a throne to me. But there's a connection there. The star is enlightened up at the top. So very much Uranus energy. Things are being purged out that are not for you, but there's connection and enlightenment, and he just feels like the energy is just running right through him. So this is a very powerful card. So you got two major arcanas, or we call those the major secret of life cards, or I like to think of them as like the gods of the tarot deck. And then the minors, like the Three of Cups, is like everyday life, okay? But it's a great card of celebration. Let's see what your oracle is. It's Carly. These are all women's names in this deck. Carly, she who frees. Liberation, unrestrained freedom. Wait, liberation, unrestrained freedom. She who frees. Okay, so very freeing energy here. And hers, let's see, she looks like she's throwing something into the ocean. Something that no longer works for her. Let me see what the book says about this. Let's see. I have it right here. Let's see what they say about this card, because I'm kind of curious what she's throwing in the ocean. It says, Carly, she who frees, demonstrates how useless it is to try to bind her. Oh, maybe those were chains. She stands barefooted on the rocky shore, her hair blowing loose from the confining headband. Birds swoop overhead. The waves break upon the rock where she perches. Nothing can contain her. She has made the decision to be free, so free she will be. Her wrist bears the mark of the shackles. She will always remember the lessons of wearing them, but now she tosses the broken, useless chains into the water. Within the waves, there is almost an electrical pulse as Carly's energy sets her loose. This is a being who will not be restrained. The message of this card is that you face a challenge only you can answer. Will you remain obedient to the chains put upon you, or will you cast them aside to live the liberated life? It is important to remember sometimes bonds are accepted. You should also understand you can change your mind about these restraints. You are at a point where you can end anything you feel holds you back. It would be wise to examine the chains thoroughly, though. Who holds the other end and who holds the key? Okay, that's interesting. And all this Uranus energy is freeing. It's like that lightning bolt that can just bust things apart. So question where you're chained, who is chaining you, and what direction you really want to be moving into, because the star's there to open up the world for you. Okay, let's go into the next week, which is February 9th through February 15th. And we're going to start off this week with the moon in Scorpio. And this is the last quarter moon in Scorpio. So this is about closure. Last quarter, we started the first quarter, I think we started in Aries. So it's kind of like a fiery forward energy. And now we're closing it out in Scorpio. And what a great sign to close things out in, because Scorpio is all about closure, right? It's about endings and new beginnings. So last quarter moon, if there's some things that have not been able to get, if you haven't been able to tie up loose ends on maybe some contracts or some projects, this is a great time to do so here, this beginning week of February 9th. Now, on the 10th, the moon's going to move into Sagittarius at 2:22 a.m. And Venus is going to make its move into Pisces. And Venus in Pisces is considered to be an exalted position. It's going to stay there from February 10th to March 6th. And I call Venus in Pisces the romantic, because it really is. I mean, if you were born with Venus in Pisces, you probably have some of that romantic kind of vibe. Now, remember, Pisces is ruled by Neptune. And when I talk about Neptune, if I have to just call it like a couple words, I like to call it the fairy tale, or, the ever after story, because we can get a little delusional sometimes with a little bit of a lot of Venus and Pisces energy. There's going to be a lot of there's just a lot of attraction with Venus and Pisces, okay? And but it doesn't mean that we're necessarily seeing clearly, so please keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind that this week on February 11th, that is the date, Wednesday, February 11th, when the moon's in Sagittarius. That's the date that we're going to move back to in the Mercury retrograde. So we're going to talk more about that. But basically, everything that happens from February 11th through what date? Through Mercury retrograde, basically. Everything's going to be revisited. Okay. So we'll talk more about that when we get there. Okay. So Sagittarius, 10th, 11th, 12th. And then the moon moves into Capricorn on the 12th, midday. And great time to get things done, right? Capricorn, really good at that. And speaking of Capricorn, Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn. And on Friday, the 13th, Saturn's going to move into Aries. So 2.5 years in Aries or in Pisces, and it's finally moving into Aries. It had been in Aries briefly, but it retrograded back into Pisces. So now it's going to stay in Aries from February 13th until April 13th, 2028. So there's going to be a lot of things, Saturn's responsibility and things like your career and your long-term standing in the world. And Aries is a very kind of self-centered sign, right? Because Aries is all about who I am. Aries is like your childhood and the development of your brain and your body and your experience as a human. So Aries is also very much forward, right? Ruled by Mars. So we're going to see a lot of forward movement when it comes to these things in our lives, but it's going to be very interesting to see what this period brings. Now, we go into a Capricorn weekend. So Valentine's Day, the moon will be in Capricorn, even though, I don't know, I guess it doesn't sound like really warm and fuzzy to have the moon in Capricorn, but Capricorn's solid. And we've already got Venus in like this, airy fairy. I love Pisces, don't get me wrong, but fairy tale signs sometimes, right? But Capricorn can keep you grounded. So we'll appreciate that part of Capricorn Valentine's Day. Now, the next day on the 15th, the moon's going to move into Aquarius by 1:17 a.m. And on the 15th, the sun is going to be square Uranus. And let me see here. I just wanted to read a little bit of my notes. I have so many notes. The 15th, I wrote down Sun square Uranus, unexpected upsets. We're close to the eclipse that's happening on the 17th. Uranus is considered the wild card. So there's surprise relief, maybe. For others, it might be the final straw. It's liberation or collapse, free of a situation. You will get your bearings soon. So, I can't tell. I'm not going to get too into what I'm hoping happens here at this time of year, but I hope that it is liberation or collapse, because things just can't continue the way that they are going in our lovely country here in the United States. Now, let's give some cards for this big week ahead, this Valentine's Day week ahead, right? So with the Sun square Uranus too, it's like, let's take it down to your own personal life. You may see things in your relationship, right? And it's like, do we want to continue? Those kind of things. We may see friendships, because Uranus is related to friends. We may see things more clearly with the sun. And so don't take it personally. If the choice is to step away, then that's the choice. Things will be seen more clearly. Okay, now I'm going to give you a couple cards for this big week ahead, this Valentine's Day week. Get an oracle here. Again, I haven't looked at any of these cards. Let's see what we've got. So the first card is the Page of Pentacles, and my attention goes to the dog in the background that's like digging up the bone. The Page is young energy, and Pentacles is anything of value. He looks like he's really like looking forward, he kind of knows where he wants to go. This is like Capricorn energy to me. And so there's a focus here, and maybe I don't know, is the dog digging up the bone or is the dog burying the bone? But it's almost like maybe you've been here before, right? That dog either has been here and is getting that bone out of the ground, or he plans to come back and get it, right? So maybe returning to old ideas. But to me, this is kind of like solid energy of like, where are we moving forward? Your next card is the Four of Cups. And it feels emotional. Looks like there's a lot of depth here. But she does look at peace. And Four of Cups is often just kind of resting, waiting to see what comes next. And you have the Wheel of Fortune. Interesting that this version of the Wheel of Fortune has that lightning bolt in it with the snake around that wheel. And we're ending the year of the snake, right? I think it happens a little bit later in the month. Usually it's earlier in the month of February, but this month, the Chinese New Year is a little bit later. Moving from the year of the snake into the fire horse. So it's kind of interesting. I think this is the last week before the change. So this is the last squeeze out of that snake skin of the things that no longer serve you. So I want you to pay really close attention, especially at the Sun squares Uranus. I think it's going to give you that final little push there to see the things that don't work. All right, now your oracle is Mora, she who hesitates, ponder, delay, confidence. Interesting, her ribbon around her almost looks like a snake to me also. Okay, let's look up Mora. I think it's Mora. Let's see what the book says. It says, Mora, she who hesitates, turns back from the open doorway. Even though she can see the sun streaming through, she is not sure it illuminates her own gifts. The violin hidden in the shadow demonstrates, do I see a violin in the shadows? I guess maybe. She demonstrates how hesitant Mora is in spite of her talent. She is a young person poised on the edge of her next big step. She delays taking forward motion because of fear and uncertainty. It is the fear of the unknown that so often holds us back. What would you say to Mora, whose name means hesitate, to encourage her to follow the bright light? The lesson of this card is that hesitation holds you back. Look closely at your own shadow to see what fears are standing in your way. Acknowledge these fears and then set them aside. It is now time to summon the courage and confidence to act. Trust in your talent. Step into the spotlight. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that goes along with that page. And the spotlight may be a long road, but you have to begin. Okay. And so, and because this Mora card almost feels like this Four of Cups card to me, and the Wheel of Fortune saying, let's get a move on it. All right. So we're going to move into the next week, which is February 16th through 22nd, President's Day week. And let's see what goodies we have going on this week. So start off with the moon in Aquarius on Monday, February 16th. And this is the day that Mercury trines Jupiter. Inspired artistic pursuits are available. So this is a good thing. Trines are usually wonderful. There's terrific mental focus. So it's a great time to hit the books. The great sixth sense. It's good for things like researching and journaling and channeling and doing like ancestor work. And there's great inspired artistic pursuits. Okay, I said that a few times. Also wrote down lost or forgotten objects can show up because I guess Mercury is related to that, to finding lost objects. And then trine Jupiter is lucky. So take advantage of the beautiful energy on Monday. Now, this is a new moon week and a solar eclipse week. So this is kind of a big deal. And so we know we have the new moon in Aquarius at 7:01 Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, the 17th. It's at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So the moon's going to move into Pisces a couple hours after the new moon. This new moon, let's see, it's also the Chinese New Year. So this is when we move into the year of the fire horse, which is exciting after finishing out the year of the wood snake. This is also Mardi Gras. And this new moon is going to be together with Mars and Venus, and it's going to be square Uranus. We keep talking about Uranus. So we're just going to have to get used to the unexpected, and we just don't know what's going to happen. That's pretty much what Aquarius feels like to me. Now, the solar eclipse is also happening there. And, you know, the solar eclipse is a wonderful thing, but it's there's a lot of unpredictable energy. And maybe that can bring us great things, but we just don't know. Give it some time. What happens now might not feel great at the time, but I think over time you'll see the long-term benefits of this. I did write down that may our hearts remember we are all one, because remember, Aquarius is the humanitarian, and we need to remember that connection as a planet so we can be more supportive of each other and less about all this division that's being strongly promoted here right now in the United States. Now, on Wednesday, so that's a lot going on. A new moon. So don't forget to make moon water, which is basically just taking a mason jar or something covered and putting it in a window, letting it get the charge up, right? So a couple days before the new moon, if you remember, a couple days after would be wonderful. Wednesday, the 18th, the sun moves into Pisces. So the moon will move into Pisces, and the sun moves into Pisces, and we are officially in Pisces season. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And remember, its ruling planet has also just changed signs, Neptune to Aries. So there's a lot of change. So this Pisces period may feel different than last year's Pisces period. Now, the sun will stay in Pisces from the 18th of February until March 20th. So watery, intuitive, psychic energy. Pisces likes to retreat back and away. So this is a good time to do so, right? To take some downtime, to make sure you have a self-care plan. And great time of year, especially up here in cold New England. Now, on the 19th, the moon continues in Pisces until 2:39 when it moves into Aries, and it will stay there on the 20th and 21st. On the 20th, Friday the 20th, we have Saturn, planet of responsibility, conjunct together with Neptune in Aries. Now, they've been traveling together for a while. We've had them together for a while in Pisces, but now they moved into the fire sign of Aries. Reality versus illusion, right? Saturn wants to be practical. Neptune wants to be in the fog and the spiritual. I'm going to say fairy tale. I don't mean it derogatory, although Pisces is illusion and delusion, but the opposite of opposite of that, which all signs are its opposite also, is clarity. Okay, so Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries on the 20th. So the weekend will start off with Aries energy. Then by 6:30 on Saturday night, we'll move into Taurus. So I have a beautiful Venus energy weekend. And I got to tell you, you got to mark your calendar for Sunday, the 22nd, because Venus is trining Jupiter. And this is a good thing. Venus in Pisces, trining, positive aspect, Jupiter in Cancer. So this is some really, really special energy. And let me just look at my cheat sheets here. So Venus is exalted in Pisces. Great placement for it. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. They're both called benefics. That's what they're referred to, like positive energy planets. So you got these positive energy planets in their exalted positions. It can bring great things to you. It can bring special encounters to you. It can bring professional encounters. It can bring creative collaborations. Some people, it can bring in people that will really impact you and be really fulfilling. So this can be love. This can be just the right people that you're looking for. So mark your calendar with a bunch of stars there on Sunday, the 22nd. Remember, this will affect us a little bit day before, day after. And also, Venus rules Taurus, and that's where the moon is. So there's so much Venus energy. And this can be very beneficial to your wallet also. So beautiful, beautiful energy there. Let's get some cards. Let's see some beautiful cards for this beautiful week ahead with all that Venus going on. You know, we've heard enough about Uranus. Let's talk about Venus. All right, one more here from the Nightfall Tarot and another beautiful oracle. Okay, our first card is the Seven of Wands. Okay, so Seven of Wands usually just looks like a lot of irons in the fire, a lot going on, and the attention is really right ahead. Okay, they're looking up and looking forward. So there's a lot of focus. Ten of Cups, the happy family card has shown up here. Always a nice thing to see. So a lot of emotion, but a lot of joy. Oh, and you got the Four of Wands. I love that. It's like hand fasting. Okay, so we see connection. And that, I mean, honestly, if I was going to pick a card out of that deck to explain how I feel about the 22nd, that'd be one of my top choices. Connection. Okay. These, like, whether they're in love or whether they're just committed friends, there's just love and joy and bonding together. And I really like that. Your oracle for the week is Hannah, she who listens, understanding, witness, compassion. Let's look up what the book has to say about Hannah. So I guess this deck is just full of a bunch of different women's names. I think it's interesting when it first came out was when Kamala was running for president, and there's a Kamala in here, which I thought was interesting. There's also a Regina in here. Okay, let's see. Hannah, she who listens, leans forward so you can quietly tell her all your stories, the delight-filled ones as well as the sorrowful. She invites you into her tent for privacy. You will not find judgment when you sit with her. This is the one person who can take what you need to dish out. Her colorful clothes reflect a spectrum of emotions, and they change according to each person's feelings. Purple is for passion, while the soft gold is for the sorrow. Do not fear interruption from this compassionate soul. She understands how important it is to be heard. This is her calling in life. Making sure the untold stories are brought forth is her mission in life. She bears witness to all that is. Hannah invokes the meaning compassionate in Hebrew. Hannah calls for you to unburden yourself. There are many ways we can communicate our stories. Allow a compassionate friend to bear witness to your revelations. You might start a journal where you write everything down. Don't avoid the ugly parts. Don't gloss over the good. Lay it all out. Your inside self needs a chance to release. Let those tales be spun. Okay, so it's almost like that friend that shows up for you and she is here to hear you. Okay, so a lot of beautiful energy this week ahead. Now let's move into our last week of the month, which is February 3rd through March 1st. And we start off this week, the moon is in Taurus until the evening of the 23rd. And then it moves into Gemini, okay? 9:29 p.m., moon to Gemini. And let's see. Yeah, okay, so it's a nice day there. And then the moon continues in Gemini on the 24th. And this is the first quarter moon in Gemini. So that card for last week, Hannah, that came up, she was encouraging you to journal and to express. And this is a first quarter moon in Gemini. So the first quarter is to get things started. And Gemini is about self-expression. So this is a great time to get a journal out. This is a great time to get moving on researching something or jotting things down, reading, preparing. Great mental energy with the first quarter moon in Gemini. Now we are moving into the 25th where the moon continues in Gemini. And please take the 20 to get all your ducks in a row, because on the 26th, Mercury retrograde is going to begin. So if there's any other final purchases that need to be made, the very, very deadline would be the evening of Wednesday, the 25th. Now, we still are in the shadow period, and some astrologers would tell you I'm wrong. I do wait until the last minute. But if you really want to be prepared, maybe make those purchases a week or two before. Now, Mercury retrograde in Pisces. This is going to begin 26th until March 20th. Now, Mercury, we talk about Mercury being the communicator, right? Mercury in Greek mythology delivered messages from the gods down to the humans, and sometimes even dipped into the underworld. Mercury's shadow is the trickster. Okay, so we know that. We know Mercury retrogrades. A lot of the reason behind not making big purchases is because of that trickster factor. Now, this is going to be Mercury retrograde on steroids because this is in the sign of Pisces. And Pisces is already cloudy, and Pisces is ruled by Neptune. And whenever Neptune's involved, once the clouds clear, we don't always know what we're left with, right? We could think, oh, I'm in love and the person's perfect and ideal. And then the clouds clear and we see the reality of it. So please, please, please keep in mind that you can't take anything on good faith. You cannot hope for the best. You can't hope that someone's going to be honest. You need to make sure that the other person signed the contract, that what you're holding in your hand is real. And you can't just hope. This is not a time for that. Okay. So please, more than ever before during a Mercury retrograde, check things 3 times. Don't sign any major contracts. Don't make any major purchases, because when this clears out, you may realize that none of it was real. Now, this Mercury retrograde starts at 22 degrees of Pisces, and it's going to move back to 8 degrees Pisces. So you've heard me talk about Mercury retrogrades before. Mercury's moving along, gets to 22 degrees Pisces, begins moving backwards. It's an optical illusion, but it affects us. Moves backwards in degrees, gets to 8 degrees of Pisces, goes direct and comes back over everything that's happened. So we will revisit everything that's happened since February 11th. Okay, so great time. Get that journal out that we told you to get. Write down what's going on, because you may find themes. I get the coolest information out of Mercury retrogrades. I usually really get to see some of the unseen that's going on behind the scenes, maybe because I am a firm believer that our subconscious mind, right, is running most of the show. And I think sometimes we get storylines stuck in our energy field. And I think that Mercury retrogrades are a great time to purge that and to notice what's coming up, what themes are coming up. And they're not coincidental, right? I find that things come up in 3s during a Mercury retrograde. So if you run into the same person 3 times, you may want to question what's going on between the two of you, right? What unfinished business is there? Things like that. Okay. Now, this is going to be close. Mercury's hanging out close to Venus. So relationship themes may be a really big part of this, and anything with money, relationships, value. And then that's in Pisces, and they're going to be trining Jupiter, and Jupiter makes everything bigger. So hold on to your hat. This Mercury retrograde. Now, the 27th, the moon will be in the sign of Cancer, and Mars is going to square Uranus. Wild times. Mars, the planet of action, squaring Uranus, the wild card planet. So a greater design is at work behind all of this. Things aren't as impossible as they once were. Revisit recent decisions. I wrote down wild spin on the wheel of fortune. Be careful about pushing too hard for things. And Mars pushes. Uranus is unpredictable. We already got a Mercury retrograde going on. We know things aren't necessarily as we think, as we see them, might not necessarily be true. Now, the 28th moon still in Cancer moves into Leo at 3:17 a.m. and Mercury, which is retrograded, is conjunct Venus. Now, they're both in the water sign of Pisces, so there's a lot of nonverbal communication going on. Feel it, take note of it, write it down in your journal, pay attention to it, revisit it through this Mercury retrograde, see what's coming up. When you're hanging out with people and you're like, standing near people and you start to feel certain vibes, please take note of it, because I bet you it's right. And it's going to be stronger than ever, this psychic energy right now during this month. Now, on the first Sunday, the moon will be in Leo, so enjoy the beautiful, fun energy of Leo. You can have a really fun Sunday. Let's pick a couple cards here for you. See what we got this week ahead. Get you one here from the Nightfall Tarot. Nightfall Tarot is kind of cool. It's almost like a Rider-Waite. It's just black and white. I'm really starting to like this Amber Moon Tarot. Keep in mind, all these decks are on my website, on our online store, tarotandtime.com. And there's free shipping over there right now. So if you like anything, go visit the store. There's all sorts of good things on that website, on that online store. I've been adding a lot of stuff, and we have a lot of Valentine's Day stuff in, and got a little spicy for Valentine's Day this year. Got some nice lingerie too. Okay, so the Queen of Cups is showing up here. I love how she has her hand over her cup. That always made me feel like she's referencing sobriety. The Queen of Cups, the Queen of Emotions, is there, and she's kind of in a way saying no, like, nope. Like, I don't feel it anymore. And the waterfall behind her, waterfalls, they say if you're depressed, go be by moving water because it lets off negative ions that make us feel good. Okay, so there's kind of this feel-good energy here, very watery, intuitive energy. We know how much water there is going on this month. We've got the Emperor, who's the boss, right? He's in charge, and he really looks in charge. Wow. Aries energy ruled by Mars. We know we have a lot of Mars square. We have that Mars square Uranus this week. So it's almost like, slow down. Let's not make any rash decisions. And the Knight of Wands is showing up. I love that this female version, she's shooting a fire arrow. She's on point and she's not going to take any garbage. So you got some powerful cards here. Queen of Emotions, Queen of Water, the Emperor, and the Knight of Wands. Okay, so it's almost like being very specific there where you're shooting that arrow to. Okay, and let's see what the oracle is. Cannot really pronounce this. Eterna. Okay. Eterna? I think it's Eterna. She who becomes. Metamorphosis, transcend, and journey. Let's look at that one up. She who becomes rises light like a feather, no longer anchored to the ground. Her lightness of being creates a total metamorphosis of self. Even her hair is changing colors from fiery red to the intensity of light blue and white, like the hottest part of the flame. Her passion to transcend to her next highest self is taking place. Her right hand is held on the something mudra, Prithvi mudra, to offset the fire element and increase the earth element. She knows she must maintain this balance if she is to continue evolving. The power mudra increases her sense of stability, which she needs as she floats off the earth. Her antenna, like stamen, gathers information on deep sensory levels. Eterna may seem to be asleep, but she is focused on her journey at hand. This card indicates that you are at a moment of becoming the being you have been working on. All the effort is coming together to send you soaring up to the next plane. The good news and the bad news is there is always another level to achieve. Each subtle state of existence creates new challenges. Know that you have safely lived on your current plane, and all that you have learned by and failed in and powered through will be brought with you on your journey. The cranes who rise from the mist show you the past is a source of strength for the future. Like the caterpillar who metamorphoses into a butterfly, it is time to try out your new wings. All right. Well, you are becoming, that is for sure. And I see you in your power here. Choose wisely. And don't let everyone's emotions run into your life. That's kind of what I'm getting with the Queen of Cups hand covered. And the Knight of Wands here isn't going to take any garbage. So please don't. And please don't let anyone stand in the way of your metamorphosis. So beautiful month of February. We end it with a lot of planets in Pisces. So stay grounded. Things can be a little erratic. It's the wild card there with Aquarian energy. And then we'll move into the intuitive psychic energy of Pisces. We're finishing out a zodiac year ending in Pisces, starting a fresh cycle next month when the sun moves into Aries, and all these planets moving into Aries, a lot of change happening. Remember, some of these heavy hitter planets like Pluto moved last year. Now Neptune and Saturn are moving this year. Uranus is finally going direct, and we're in new times. So please stay awake, stay aware, and help others, and keep the connection. Aquarius connects with the global, with the all people. Please keep your heart open to that connection so we can bring more change and positive energy for all those living on this planet. Thank you for joining me.